Hello good people and welcome to Reality Check Daily. My name is James and I'll be your host today. In this video I'll be discussing about the physical effects of my 21 days of fasting. I'll first talk about my body prior to the fasting period and the aftermath of the 21 days of fasting. So prior to the 21 days of fasting, I had been experiencing a lot of acidity in my stomach and I had been diagnosed with pylori. So this is a problem that had actually persisted for quite some time because I was first diagnosed with H. pylori in the year 2023, and this was the early in the year. I think this was in the third month. So at around March, I went because I was feeling quite bad in my stomach. So these were the dominant symptoms that I was feeling. I was feeling a lot of discomfort. I was feeling some kind of pain, and every time I would take a glass of water, a few sips of water, I would rush to the lavatory, and it was quite persistent because I would frequent the lavatory for so many times. Probably I would go to the washroom about even 10 times in a day. Anytime I took water, I would just frequent the washroom. So, and also my stool was kind of loose and had a brownish color. So that was also another symptom. So the acidity was actually sometimes over the roof, and I would feel some kind of sharp pain. So I went and did a lab test of the stool, and the results were positive, and I was positive of pylori. So since this was the first time I was taking the kit, I got a low level kind of treatment, which was the pyro kit. So I took it diligently, and I did not miss any slot of the administration of the medication. So I was also positive of a lot of amoeba in my stomach. So I took the medication for amoeba and pylori simultaneously. Yes, and after the medication, I was taking some minerals or some probiotics so that I could treat my stomach lining and everything, because the pylori was highly concentrated. So I was to go back after several weeks, or after I was done with the kit, just to follow up and see whether the kit had the treatment was successful. So I actually took some sweet time, and instead of I think I was required to go back after 3 weeks thereabout. So I took, I think, 1 month and a few weeks. And when I took the lab test again, it was still positive. I must say at this point I was actually exhausted, because you know how the kit medication sometimes makes you feel. So sometimes you feel like your tongue has no taste and all that. So I was actually bored and also angered that I was still positive of H. pylori. But all the same, I was actually expectant of these results, because the symptoms had not gone away. So I'll still see that the same symptoms that I had prior to the treatment were still consistent even after the treatment. So I stalled, and I went back a month later. So these is actually just to estimate about 2 months later, and I took a different lab test. These are a completely different place and lab, and it was still positive. So upon inquiring from the physician and telling him the history, and since I had taken pilot kit, so he recommended that I take a higher level kind of kit, and to ensure that it had levofloxacin in it. So I took ESOS. So I was still very diligent in taking it, but this time I was not positive of amoeba or any kind of cysts and any other thing. It was just pylori. So the first treatment of amoeba actually worked. Yeah, but the pylori was not eliminated. So I faithfully took this kit, the ESOS kit, and yeah, I was still supposed to report back after the treatment to see the progress and to know whether the treatment that I had been administered was successful. But rather unfortunately, it was still not successful. So this thing really bummed me out, and I was still stressed. So I didn't take any other medical interventions, and I waited. So because I think I took another lab test at around August, but I didn't take any treatment. But at around November, there was a time that my acidity blew over the roof. So I was used to taking this concoction to boost my immunity, and I was accustomed to taking it for probably since 2015. So this is quite a long duration of time. I would take raw ginger, garlic, and squeeze some lemon juice, and then I would boil the ginger after I've grated it along with the garlic, and after boiling it, I mix it with the lemon water. After which now I would now probably put some I would put, just for the seasoning, I would put a tea bag, and then I would put sometimes, depending on the way I'm feeling, I would use propolis, which is the natural honey immune booster, or antibacterial. I don't know what to say, but I love propolis. So I have one of my friends who they are in the bee business. So I get the products from them. So I get the products from them. So I would sometimes use honey. So I was accustomed to that. But on this evening, after I took the concoction, my acidity went over the roof. And my wife had to rush me to the hospital. So after I did several tests, the pylori was positive, and the acidity was actually the main culprit. So I was given some medication, not a kit, but some pylori defense medication. You can see them on the screen. But these medications were quite detrimental to my health. So I would say they helped stabilize, but they were not as good. So up to that time, actually, before I went to fast, I was still positive of pylori. I'll share, you can still see the results, because these are actually just a few results, because I can attest that I have done more than 6 lab tests, and they were all positive since March up to February of this year. So pylori was one of the predominant ailments that I was facing. So the second one was IBS. I actually didn't know what IBS was, and this was really shocking to me, because after the third time, after now this is in November. I resulted, because I was mostly seeing the normal doctors and the lab technicians. I resolved that I didn't want any kind of negligence in my health, and I should see a specialist. So I booked an appointment with one of the gastroenterologists in our area, and I queued, and yes, I told him my medical history of background concerning the predominant pylori and everything. He assessed my mental health by asking me a few questions, how my lifestyle was, and it was there that he diagnosed me with IBS. So IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. So he gave me a few medication. He actually, I think, gave me 3 medication. There was a medication I was supposed to take before taking any meals, and there was an antidepressant that I was supposed to take before going to bed. So I was quite apprehensive of the antidepressant, and I asked him why I should take it, and he explained to me that there's a connection between the bowel and the mind. So it was mostly supposed to fix that communication, so that I'm not constantly feeling hungry. Actually, at this point, I was actually overeating a lot, because every time every time, let's say I am a person who was accustomed to intermittent fasting. So I would mostly skip supper. But I would find that because of the way my stomach was hurting when I was hungry, I would actually lack sleep because my stomach would now start grumbling and making sounds, and I was now feeling a sharp piercing pain. So I would resort to eating a lot at night and snacking a lot. So I think this was amongst the reasons, amongst the major contributors also to my obesity, because that is another reason. So the third medication was to deal with acidity. And in the event that I had loose stool, I would take it so that now after every loose stool, so that now it would stop that loose stool. But that one I actually didn't use even at any point, because that was just a by the way, or something that I bought just to consider in the event that I had such a symptom. So I took the medicine, but at some point, because I had actually around December, I had actually resolved that I would go for prayer and fasting. So I had started to wean off my body from the medication, so that now when I go to the prayer mountain in the place of prayer and fasting, that I would not be dependent on this medication. However, due to unavoidable circumstances, I was unable to go. So fast forward the new year, the symptoms were still dominant. So I actually went to a different gastroenterologist. And I told the gastroenterologist everything. These are different gastroenterologists from the first one that I had an appointment with on December. So she was a lady. The first gastroenterologist was a gentleman. So the second one was a lady. I was actually feeling that I needed another perspective or opinion from a professional. So I actually expected her to actually write down a kit that I would take, because prior to me going to see her, I actually did another lab test and I was still positive of pylori. But I don't think there is a test for IBS, because she actually diagnosed me with the same functional disorder, and she explained to me. But how she diagnosed me was my habits, my lack of sleep, my behavior in overall, in my mental well-being. So she actually told me that I actually had symptoms of depression. So yeah, it was actually the same diagnosis with the other one, but she only put me on the antidepressant that I had first been administered, and told me to quit the rest of the medications. So that's something I did, and by God's grace, I was able now to go for the 21 days of fasting. That is in the next month. That is in February. So another condition that I was suffering from was insomnia. I would find that every time I lay in my bed, I would lack sleep. I would actually be there just staring at the ceiling, and sometimes I'll just wake up, do my Bible study, and I'll still not have any sleep, and I would actually just binge on some football highlights, some funny videos, just so that I could sleep on the couch and then wake up and go to bed. So it was quite persistent. I think sometimes when I would go to bed, I would actually be thinking about work, and I'll just be eager. My body is actually tired, extremely tired, but my mind is overworking. It's on overtime and overdrive. So there are ideas I'm getting. There's so much I want to do. There are things that I'm planning for the next day. So I would say there was a big disconnect between my body and my mind when I think about it, because I would go to bed extremely tired and exhausted, but my mind is still giving me all these ideas I should implement concerning work. And that was actually my daily routine for nearly, I don't know, but it was quite a duration of time, because I would say perhaps even 6 months. But towards the better part of November, December, and January, the symptoms were actually very dominant. I would constantly think about work, even when I'm in bed, and I would not get that kind of quality sleep where you enter into the deep phase of sleep. So I would say up to this point, I had a skewed sleeping pattern. So number one, why I would say I had a skewed sleeping pattern, I would find myself binge eating during the night because I was constantly getting hungry because of the pylori and because of now the IBS. So I would find that I do not have sleep, I'm overthinking, and I'm also overeating. So another reason is that whenever I lacked sleep, I would now start watching a lot of media. I would go, my preferred choice of media is YouTube. So I would mostly watch godly content. These are sermons and some channels that I've subscribed that mostly involve apologetics. After that, I would watch some funny fails and some NBA highlights and football highlights. So I would find this screen exposure at night would also affect my sleep quality and sleep time. So those were the mostly the indicators that my sleep schedule was skewed, and I would actually feel groggy and sleep deprived throughout the entire day, but I would still find energy to work. So my passion and hunger to work was actually outweighing the physical probably implications that it had on my body. So the other condition I was suffering from was depression. I wouldn't say that my depression was severe, it was mild. And it actually took the second gastroenterologist for me to notice. But I actually had one indication that I was suffering from depression. I remember one time as I was driving home in our estate, and when I was nearing home, I started feeling almost like a garment of grief around me. I was feeling sad because now at this point, I was not even actually having a lot of physical activities. This is in terms of working out, playing basketball. Yes, and as I was heading home and close to home, I stared at our office where I actually reckoned that I spend nearly 80% of my time in the office because I'm constantly working. And a cloud and a garment of grief came around me, and I actually felt like driving away and not going home. So that was the first indication of depression because I actually had not experienced this before. I actually am an indoors kind of person and I rarely go out. So I don't know where I was coming from because I rarely go home at night. But it was probably around 7 p.m. and I was feeling so bad as I was nearing home. And I'm mostly excited to go home, but this was the first time that I was feeling sad. And the more I got close to home, the more I felt like driving away and just escaping to a different place and not just going home. So that was the biggest indications that I was suffering from depression, and I was actually burnt out from work. As you can tell, majority of my time was spent in the office. I don't know, but I think majority of the business owners, the CEOs of their businesses, I think they experience these kind of seasons where you have so many ideas. You want to implement so many systems that you want to set up. So it's a season where you are overwhelmed. You need to hire people. You need to follow up on so many things. So I was in that kind of season, and I was mostly the systems that I was setting up. I actually needed to do a lot of due diligence in follow up and everything. So and it was taking a toll on me, on my physical health, on my mental health, and everything else. So yeah, depression was amongst the conditions that I was experiencing prior to the 21 days of fasting. So at this point, I was also obese. I was overweight. This is just based on my height. So I was weighing around 84.4 kgs. And this I can say was mostly attributed to the overeating. As I said, I was diagnosed with IBS and H. pylori. So I would find that whenever I was on an empty stomach, the acidity levels would skyrocket, and I would feel a very sharp pain. So it didn't matter whatever time it was. I would actually say that I mostly binge ate at night. I would just wake up at around 2 and I was feeling so hungry and I was in a lot of pain. So just go and snack and then head back to bed. And another thing that I've actually noticed, I don't know whether it's just me, but every time I eat, I do not sleep immediately. I need like quite a bit of time before I sleep. So that can also be attributed to my insomnia and to my skewed sleeping pattern. So it was a whole entire mess. So another thing is that since now I was mostly overwhelmed with work, I was in a place that I was feeling burnt out. I had so many things to do. And I'm there thinking, where do I have all the time and all the resources to do this? I feel that I have so many things to do that there's not enough time. There are not enough people who are supporting me to achieve these goals. So I was mostly overworking, and I would find that because I have a small gym area where I usually do some weightlifting or weight training, and I have a small basketball court that I actually just hoop just to unwind and take care of my physical health as well as my mental health. So I'd actually say in a span of probably 3 months, this from November to January, I probably went on the court thrice, 3 times. And concerning the weight training, I don't know. Probably it cannot be more than 6 times. Actually, that is far stretched. So I would find that I'm exhausted mentally. And from those with such kind of experiences will agree that when you're exhausted mentally, even working out physically is hectic. It's like climbing a hill. So yes, I would lack the energy, the mental energy, not actually physical energy, because I was eating a lot, but the mental energy to work out, because when I'm working out, I'm still thinking about work. So my mind was just clogged with so many thoughts and so many things. I would actually say amongst the biggest triggers that I noticed that I need now to go and just take a break from work is that I was now even feeling that I would go mad because my mind was on overdrive. I would get so many thoughts, so many ideas, some negative, some destructive. Actually, at this point, majority of them were just negative and destructive. Yes, so yeah, I never in my life have I ever thought that I would run mad. But at this point, actually, it was around the last week of January. I was now coming to see it as a possibility, because now I would wake up sad. I would wake up feeling groggy, not feeling to do anything. Whenever I sat down on the computer, I was now feeling like life is being sucked out of me. So I felt that I needed and deserved a break. Not even deserved, I needed a break, because to deserve a break, because all the work still needs to be done. Yes. So yeah, amongst the reasons that were contributing to my burnout is that whenever I would delegate a task and not follow up, it would just sink. I don't know whether business owners have experienced this, that you train and delegate for a task, and after some time you find that the person you delegated it to has not been as diligent, or rather, that was one of the reasons. My second reason is that I would lack proper structure and time to follow up on the systems to ensure that they are smoothly running. So whether it's social media management or such kind of things. So just by taking that time and not following up, I would find that there was a lot of mess and negligence that had happened. So I would now be running these systems, and I would find that my mental space was not stable. So the last condition would be that my immunity was really low. Why do I say so? I would find that I was mostly getting a lot of flus and colds. The area where we live, it's quite windy in the evenings, but that's not enough reason. I am used to showering cold showers as opposed to hot showers. So that could also not be a contributor, because that's something my body is accustomed to. But at times, I don't know, I think the more I did not work out, I actually got at some point where cold showers were now becoming quite a struggle for me. And even now, because I was mostly swamped with work and the physical activity was minimal, I would find that I actually, in a span of in December and January, I actually took a lot of medication. I would actually tell the pharmacist that I do not want them to prescribe for me any antibiotic, and I would be clear on that, because I had taken antibiotics and it had not been more than 3 weeks. So I would be on and off due to colds and flus. Yeah, at some point, the pharmacist recommended that I take some supplements. These were, I think, cod liver. I actually started using them. Up to this point, I have actually just taken one pill of the supplement just to boost my vitamins and everything else. Now, these were the effects of my 21 days of fasting. Just as I mentioned, the conditions I was experiencing before the fast. So what I realized, when I fasted in the prayer mountain, because as you can tell, it was a long stretch, 21 days, but I was very skeptical. I actually paid for 4 nights and 3 full days, just so that I could test my body to see whether I could cope. Yeah, so I was very skeptical. So it was just to take my body on a rhythm and on a momentum, so that I do not have any kind of emergency. So on the third day, I could actually tell a difference. And there was a reason that I actually wanted three full days. This is about 72 hours. Just based on my experience, because I fasted before, I noticed that there's a kind of effect that the body has after 3 full days of fasting. So after that, I actually added more days. And after that, after being sure that my body had adjusted, I added more days, so that the total was 21 days. So I took my body not on a shock, but I wanted it to adapt slowly. So I could actually tell that my IBS was cured. How could I tell? IBS mostly operates in a stressful environment. Since I was away from work, I had delegated nearly everything to my wife. Up to this point, even when I got out of the fast, I actually deal with minimal things concerning work, because now I felt that this workload, this feeling of being burnt out would actually push me beyond my limits. So I was careful to delegate these tasks to my wife, and just to help in whichever capacity she wants me to step in. So I was feeling stress-free. My sleep cycle was actually fixed. So I would just go to bed. This is actually after the 5th day. I would just go to bed, and I would be feeling okay. And that sharp pain was no longer there, because I'm in a place, in these 21 days, I was only having a cup of tea in the morning and in the evening. The other sustaining thing that was actually only water. So I would say that's how my IBS was cured. And up to this day, I still have no symptom of IBS. That is irritable bowel syndrome. The second thing, and this was, I could feel it, but I needed medical confirmation, was the H. pylori. So as you can see, the results, they are negative. I actually was having a conversation with the lab technician, and he just inquired from me, which medication did you take? And I told him I actually didn't take medication. He's the one who had administered to me the SOS kit, and he was very shocked, and he told me, how comes you're now well? Because I had frequented that lab several times, I think about 3 times. So I explained to him that I went on a 21 days of fasting, prayer and fasting. And he inquired, are you sure you didn't take anything? I'm telling, and I was convincing him I actually didn't take anything. And that one I can assure you. So yeah, I was quite intrigued, and I was quite shocked, I would say, that it was negative, because this was very persistent. It was very persistent. Actually, the only discomfort I felt after the 21 days of fasting was acidity. And this is just, this is not a sickness. It's just based on nutrition, the kind of foods that you take. So, yeah. So I would say also my acidity was cured. Yeah. So I just manage my diet. I avoid things that have a lot of acidity. So I no longer take pepper and any things that could trigger my acidity. So that I would say that's not a sickness. That's just a way of life. Yeah. So now I have about 4 things fixed. Yeah, that's my IBS has been cured. My sleeping cycle has been fixed, because now I would go to bed and just falling asleep would be easy. And since I had delegated the majority of the work to my wife, this I would say nearly 90%, I would redirect. Whenever my employees called me, I would tell them, just contact Judy and she'll handle everything. So I was feeling quite some rest, and my mind was not working on overdrive. So yeah, the insomnia had also gone. Yeah. So the effects were quite significant, because I have a regular sleeping pattern. I am no longer snacking and eating. I am no longer overthinking and being stressed. Yes. So all this, because these things are not cured just by one item or one change in lifestyle, but a drastic change. So even prayer, I would say, had a significant effect. That's in my mindset, in my coping with stress, because whenever I would pray, I would be at ease. So I'll share more about that in the video that will cater for the spiritual changes that I experienced. I also lost about 6 kgs in the duration of 21 days of prayer and fasting. So I weighed myself, and you can actually see the results. So after the 21 days of fasting, I've had a workout routine which has been quite beneficial. So I've been mostly in those few weeks, just I have not been as consistent, but in the past 2 weeks to shooting this video, I've actually been quite consistent. And what I've been mostly engaging in is weight training, which is the body split. I'll do probably the chest and the biceps today, do the squats or the leg workout on a different day, as along with shoulder, just that normal weight training routine. I must say it has been very beneficial and extremely essential in my well-being. Amongst the things I do, I don't just work out randomly, but amongst the things I do when working out is listen to music, exclusively gospel music, and I sometimes listen to sermons. So I not only just cater for my physical well-being, but my mental well-being is catered by the content that I consume. So it's extremely beneficial. I sleep like a baby, and I am able to enter that deep phase of sleep easily. And I ensure that I have a day, like today is my recovery day. I worked out in the past two days. I've been consistent in that. So I make sure that my body is not sore. And yeah, that has been quite terrific in my mental health. And the colds and flus are no longer as frequent, and I just got a few allergies, and what I've been using to treat those was a few medication, and now I've just been taking the natural remedies, which is ginger, garlic, and lemon. I actually just took it today, but I haven't been feeling sick as I used to feel. So I would say that is just normal, because right now, like I'm like the last time I got a cold, I had worked out without during the evening, and it's quite windy, without anything besides my t-shirt and my shorts. So yeah, based on the weather conditions here, that's not a good attire to work out. You at least need warm trousers and at least a hoodie. So that is quite understandable and cannot be attributed to any form of weak immune system. I actually feel stronger than I used to, and I'm actually more energetic and active than I was. So that is something quite significant. So the 21 days of prayer and fasting were actually very, very important and have been life-changing for me. Yes, so I'll just to wrap everything up. I was cured of the IBS that I was facing, this irritable bowel syndrome, which was mostly attributed to my gut health or bowel health and my mind. So the depression was cured, the insomnia was also cured, the overeating, and my skewed sleeping cycle was fixed. And now I have a regular circadian rhythm. And just through the loss of the excess weight, I am not at my ideal weight, but I'm way better, having lost those 6 kgs. And I no longer get those colds and flus as I used to. These ones are just normal and cannot be attributed to a weak immune system. So I'm very happy that I was able to make that decision, and I was actually able to carry through the 21 days because it was not easy. And that's why I ensure that I say that there were different factions of it. That's why I went for prayer and fasting. So it was an environment that helped me to cope, because I was not just there, just idle, but I was praying and seeking God. So those are the benefits I reaped. You can tell that they are quite a lot. And if you're there and you have been planning probably to go and fast, to do some fasting, I encourage you to do so. Nowadays, I'm actually able to do intermittent fasting. I actually just take 2 meals majority of the times. This breakfast and lunch. Prior to that, I would actually have a minimum of 5 meals. So it's something that I would say quite miraculous and life-changing for me. And I no longer want to neglect the whole aspect of health, not only my physical and mental health, because they are both interrelated. If your mental health suffers, you must be sure that your physical health will also suffer as well. So my spiritual health, my physical health, and my mental health are extremely good at this moment as I release this video, and I couldn't be happier, and I am glad to be at this point and this position in my life. Do not wait for you to be ill or for you to be hospitalized for you to take care of your body, because this is the vessel that helps you to do life. So if you're sick, you will not be able to accomplish the goals that you have set. So do not overwork yourself. Do not push your body to the limits, because the repercussions will be devastating. Take care of your body. Take care of your all facets of your health. That is your spiritual health, your physical health, and your mental health. Thank you for watching this video. I'm very grateful. If this is the kind of content you enjoy, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you are notified whenever we release new content. Thank you and stay blessed.